Alright, let's take a look here and see where we're going. Alright, so we'll go ahead and start presenting here. Share screen, start. Okay. You see my screen, Matt?
Yeah.
Okay, so it says, what is a public property? So in this lesson, we're going to be talking about classes. This is pretty much just a really generic, brief overview of classes. We're not going to be able to go into a whole lot of detail of classes, but we will definitely be covering classes more as we go on. So there's two types of classes. There's a public class and a private class. Public class is something that you can reference and reuse that object throughout your application, and then there's a private class that it can only be accessed within whatever that is within itself. So generally like a form or something would be like a private class. So like we were working on our math app. You want to go ahead and load that up real quick? I can give you an example. Let me know when you're there.
I'm trying to remember. How do you change the compiler to run instead of because mine's on attach right now.
On attach,
Or yeah, so instead of
you should have a you should have this. If you're attaching, then you did not make a Windows form application. You just simply made a class file.
hold on, maybe I probably opened the wrong thing.
If you want, Matt, we can just make a whole new application. It's fine.
No, I found it.
Okay. All right, so you have this.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and go into our code view so we can kind of understand what's going on here a little bit better. Let me know when you're there.
All right.
So right now, if we look at this line right here, it says public partial class. So this is just a partial class. Um, partial meaning it's a piece of this class, this Form 1 class. So there's another piece to this Form 1 class, which this is the code behind, and this is the designer. So that's basically what it's referring to. Is that this is just one part of the overall class. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new custom class. But before that, I want you to understand a few things about classes. So, if we go into the properties of these, so like these controls or this text box control, technically this is a class. This object is a class because it has these properties, and we'll by the end of today, you'll actually understand how that works and why that's a part of a class. But just know that basically everything that you do is a part of a class. So when I think of a class, I think of like the bones, in our body is the class, and then like the skin and and your muscles and stuff is kind of like the code behind that kind of like keeps everything together or brings everything together. But the bones is pretty much the structure. It's like the foundation
Yeah.
of your application, so or the skeleton of your application. So right now, the way we have this set up is we have this set up to store those values in a string, right? That's
Yeah.
only accessible within here, correct? And we can't really do anything with it. Like, we can't save this data. We can't really do anything with it, right?
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is today we're going to talk about creating classes and how to actually save your data, among a few other things too. But let's go ahead and go over our questions first. So what is a public property? Well, in order to understand a property, um, let's go ahead and look at an existing class real quick, or an existing object. So this is a property. And I think we went over properties already very generically, right?
Yeah.
So these are properties. So of this object, these are values that you can assign a value to. But these are the actual properties for this. So like the name is a property. The accepts return is a property. All these values here that you can fill in are properties. Okay? Now that may not be clear right now, but it's about ready to be hopefully in a minute. So let's go back to our next question. So the next part of that is what's a public property versus, a private property. So a public property is a property that you can access throughout the application. So it's something that you can reference. So because text box, the text is a public property, we actually can access that. We can define that value. But if that value was set as a private property, then you could not set that value. You could not modify it because it's a private property.
Yeah.
So that'll make a little bit more sense here in just a second. So let's go ahead and get started a little bit so this makes sense a little bit. So we're going to come into our Solution Explorer on the right. And then we're just going to come up here to our project and we're just going to add. We're going to add a new item. Or you can click on class. Doesn't really matter. Class is already selected for us. So let's call this class, let's call it storage, or actually let's call it data. That's what it is. It's going to be our data class. Let me know when you get there.
Right.
Did you get it?
Just a sec.
So this is where we're going to store all of our data. Um, all the information basically.
Yeah.
Let me know when you
can't
get there.
find well, I can't find the menu to
It's on the far hand right. It says Solution Explorer. If you don't have it, if it's not visible on the right hand side, like not docked, go into your view and right here Solution Explorer.
Okay, yeah, it's in there.
You got it?
Um,
And if you want to dock that, what you can do is if you want to dock that, there's like this comes up, just drag it over to this right here, and it'll automatically be right there. And then there's a little down pointing tack that you can click on that. And that'll kind of give it like a tab, like we do for up here on these, and then over here on these.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So, have you got this far? Did you get your data class made?
Almost.
Okay. I think at this point it's no longer it's technically not a math app. We can we'll make a new one eventually, but it's no longer technically a math application. It's actually going to be like a data processing app.
Yeah,
Chase.
well, I found it, so.
Okay. So you got your new class?
Yeah.
All right. So does it look just like this?
Yep.
Okay. So if you notice right here, compared to this says public, and this just says class data, right?
Mm-hmm.
So by default in C Sharp, because it does vary language to language, this is considered a private class. So if there's nothing here by default, it considers this a private class. In order to make this public, you have to type public. Okay? Now, in order to show you the difference, let's go ahead and make it private. And then what we're going to do is we're going to actually add a property. Okay? So first thing we need to do though, let's flip back here. So we want to get this F name. It's like your first name. We want that first name, right? Because that's what we want. Like we want to store that. So let's come back to our data class. And we're going to, that's a string. Now, I use this naming convention for anything that's considered quote unquote global, meaning it can be accessed throughout the entire application, as opposed to something that's inside here. So anything that's not inside of a sub procedure, I like to use the underscore, and then I'll go ahead and say first name. The underscore indicates to me that this is a global, or at least global to this class. It's a global variable. And then we're going to go ahead and set the variable to string empty. Now, technically you don't have to do this. It's just a good practice to set your variables to a default value. Okay? So we have our first variable. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to actually create this as a public property. So we're going to say public. Actually, I'm just going to go Google the syntax for that. I can never like memorize a property. I know that's terrible. I know there's a get and set. If it was Visual Basic, it would be so much easier. Okay, you don't have to say public property. Wrong programming language. My bad. In Visual Basic, you have to say public property and then define your variable. In C Sharp, you don't have to do that. Okay. So it's a string. And it can't be the same name as this. So we're going to drop the underscore and just say first name. And then it should be as simple as get, which, and yeah. So get And then we're going to say set. We want to set the value. We want to allow it to get the value, and we want to allow it to set the value. Or wait, I think it's value equals not return. Yeah, I think that's right. Let me double check. Oh, yeah. Reverse. Sorry, so used to Visual Basic still. Yeah, and then now that I see it, it makes logical sense. Anyway, so first thing you're doing here is you're defining the data type, which is a string, and then you're defining the name of the variable, or the property in our case. And then you're telling it you can get the value, which is going to be whatever this is, and then you can also set the value of the first name. Okay? So this is a private class. So let's go in here and let's try to make a new instance of that private class. Should have some problems with it. It should probably, I'm thinking it won't even let you do it because it's a private class. So should say data and then underscore data equals new data. It's like that. Did you get that far?
Almost.
Where are you at?
Class data still.
Okay. You still trying to create the public property?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and change that from a public property to a private property just temporarily so you can see how that's going to work. So let me know when you get there. You got there?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, another way of being able to tell public and private. Well, these are technically both private now. I could remove this and just say this is the equivalent. So these are both private variables now. We'll go ahead and undo that though, so we actually have the word private there for now because we're going to change that back. So technically, both these variables are private. Basically, they're inaccessible. This is a variable and this is a property, so both are inaccessible. So if we come down here and we say underscore data dot, you see how there's nothing there?
Yeah.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our data class. Okay? First thing I want to do is I want to set this to public because we'll need that public for later on. And then we're going to set this to public as well because we need to access this property. Okay? And then we're going to come in here. Then we're going to say underscore data. And by the way, C# is case sensitive, so make sure you get it right. Dot. And if you look, now it actually has that first name. Do you see that? So we're going to say first name equals And we're just going to grab this line right here and just copy and paste it. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Alright, so now we actually have our first public property. So now we need to do our last name, our age, and our phone. So let's go ahead and go back into our data class and let's create those. So let's do last name first, and just for the sake of keeping things simple, I'm just going to copy and paste. Because those are both strings. There's last name. Okay, did you get the last name?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and do the next one. Age. What do you say age was? Age is an integer
Yeah.
because it's coming from that numeric text box. So we'll do int. We'll say int 32. Actually, we'll just say int. Keep it as an int. Go all lowercase. Now, because it's an integer, we're going to go ahead and set the default value to 0. Okay. Create a new public property. So public int age. Okay, let me know when you get age done. You get age?
Yeah.
Okay, what's our next one? Is phone?
Yeah.
Phone is a string. So just to keep this clean, I'm gonna go ahead and put phone up here. And then I'm just gonna copy and paste last name. Alright, so your code should roughly look like mine.
Yeah.
You got all that?
Yeah. Just one more.
Okay, just let me know when you get there.
All right.
Okay, so now we're gonna go back into our form and we're gonna finish the rest of these. Let's go ahead and comment this out. Um, remember that's the forward slash forward slash. 'Cause we did that one. Let's go ahead and do the last name. You know, and as we get them, you know, updated, we'll go ahead and comment out, the lines that we're gonna no longer need. And eventually, once we get this working, we'll go back and just completely remove them. And let me know when you get all these updated. Let me know when you get to this part. And I know we have errors, don't get me wrong. We'll get back to that. Did you get all those yet?
Almost.
Okay. Is it starting to make sense at all?
Yeah.
Okay. The idea is that a class is like a global variable as opposed to these which are just local variables. So you can use your variables and your properties in your data class. You can use those if we had multiple forms, like if we had another forum, you could use those in there too.
Okay.
So that's kind of the whole point of a class, like a property, I should say, of a class. It's like it's a portable value, like it's portable.
Yeah.
All right, so let me know when you get there.
Alright. Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, so now we have errors. Now the reason why we have errors because this name doesn't exist anymore. So we don't have the f name anymore. We have the data underscore f name. So go ahead and grab that and copy and paste to replace the f name with the data f name. Just like that. Because we no longer have that local instance version, we have a global version of it now.
Yeah.
And let me know when you get there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get rid of all this green because we're not really going to need that anymore. Are you there?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, now I want to show you how this works. So let's set a breakpoint right here at the start of our submit click. Let me know when you get there.
I'm trying to remember how you did breakpoints.
So breakpoints, you just come all the way over till see how your arrow is pointing to the right, and then like if you move it over
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
far, it turns left.
Yeah.
And that's where you click, right there in that little gray strip.
Okay.
Did you get it?
Yep.
Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and click start to go ahead and debug. All right. Did you get that far?
Almost.
Yeah, my computer's a little old too. Like, I've got to.
Well, actually, the program's still showing that it has errors in it.
Okay, where's your errors at? So let's take a look at mine and let's compare it to yours and make sure that you have everything exactly the same. And you need this data, you need this new instance of the data class.
Yeah.
You have that. And then you should be using, or you should be setting the values of the data properties based on your form. And then you should have this switch statement. Where's your errors at?
Um, oh, it's because I didn't switch fname in all of them.
Oh, in your message boxes?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. I'm going to get something to drink in my throat. All right, how are we looking?
Yeah, it's debugging right now.
Okay, so you're debugging. Okay. Let me go ahead and debug too.
All right.
No more errors?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so our application is working, right? So let's go ahead and fill in some information. Okay, just go ahead and fill it in. Let me know when you're ready. And then don't click submit until you're ready and let me know. And we'll do it together.
All right.
Alright, so we'll go ahead and click submit. Now, we're not going to see anything much different, than what we did last time as of right now. It should be about the same concept. So go ahead and press F10 to go ahead and step through, and just keep on pressing F10 until you get to this point right here, until you get to your switch.
Okay.
So if you hover over your data and go ahead and expand that, so you see how your data is filled now in your class? Like what it's telling you is that it's filled those properties or that
Yeah.
with that information. Go ahead and stop debugging and go ahead and start again. I want to show you the difference. So go ahead and fill it in one more time. I probably should have done this in the beginning. That was my fault. Exact same information as before. And just let it hit the breakpoint first. Let me know when you get there.
All right.
Now, hover over your data, the object itself, and it should be empty. So see how everything empty currently?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to step twice. We're going to step 1, 2. Now, it hasn't actually executed this line yet, but it has already executed this line. So if we look at our data object, we should have a first name. You see that? Do you have that too? It should say, I assume, Matt.
Yeah.
Okay. Step again. Let's look to see if our data object has our last name. Yep. Step again. Check for age. Yep. And then one more time for phone. And there we go. Boom. So it's successfully stored all that information for us. Now, it didn't actually save this information to disk. Okay? So right now it's just literally stored in your memory, in your RAM, so to speak. Okay?
Okay.
So we have not stored that information in that class. Okay?
Yeah.
So let's take a look at our agenda here. So let's review. Let's review a few things, and then we're gonna go into stream writers, and then we'll come into by-ref and by-val.
Okay.
We're gonna come back to that. We're gonna skip that. So let's go over this. So Matt, what is a public property?
Um, can be accessed throughout the application.
Right. I see that you could read that. In your own
Yeah.
words, what does it mean?
Um, it means it doesn't have to be, strictly in the class to be used.
I think it means that you can use it in other classes, like it,
Yeah.
as long as the property or the class is public. So
Right.
what's a private property?
It can only be accessed from the class.
That it's written in?
Yeah.
Okay. And what's a global property? Did we go over global property?
No.
So a global property would be like a public property. It can be accessed throughout your entire application. So those properties would be like a global variable, so to speak, or a property. It's something. It's an object that you can access globally, or it's a
Okay.
variable that you can access. um, so what is a local property?
Um, well, it's something that's only accessible from where it was created. So
Inside of a sub procedure, right?
yeah.
Or within the class itself, right? Like if it was a private property, you could consider the private property a local property, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. An instance. So, this is an instance. We're creating a new instance of this object, okay? Or this class. So that's what an instance is. I know we didn't go over that. An instance, I mean, let's take a look at the definition. Good old dictionary. An example or a single occurrence of something. Kinda. So an instance, in this case, I think we could say is a single instance or a single copy of the data class, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that kind of makes sense. I mean, it's a little hard to get from dictionary.com, but whatever. How do I create a new instance? Well, we use the keyword new when we're creating a new instance. Okay?
Okay.
We can get into more in the by-val and the by-ref later on. Actually, we can do that right now. Before we go into stream writing, let's go ahead and go into by-val and by-ref. So, what is a property made of? Properties, they get the value and you set the value. So, what is an object? What is an object, Matt?
Um,
I mean, an object can be...
a discrete part of the program that's created separately.
An object basically is just... Anything can be an object, really. Like, pretty much. I mean, let's go to the Google here. For the definition, it's pretty much anything. Okay, an object is basically a block of memory that has been allocated or configured according to the blueprint. Program may create many objects of the same class. Objects are also called instances, and they can be stored in either a named variable or in an array or a collection. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So basically, I think of an object as like a class or a variable. It's pretty much just about anything. But I mean, that's a pretty good generic definition, I think, as you
Yeah.
understand. You know, as you grow in your understanding of what it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm over here dying. All right, so let's do something different. Let's discuss by val versus by ref. So by val just literally makes a copy of something. Okay? So if you see something that says like void test, not even really sure how you do it in C sharp. Hold on, let me go look. Per by val. Yeah, I know that's terrible. I know how to do it in Visual Basic. C sharp, by val. And I know what by val is. A handy dandy site. That's not going to give me a good example. Okay. Yeah, you don't actually say by val. Okay. That makes sense. I should have known. So private void actually we can just say for by val we'll just say alright. So this would be a by val. So you're passing in data. So if we wanted to pass in, like we wanted to, so initializing component, say we wanted to call test. It's telling us that we have to pass in this parameter. This is our parameter as data. And once again, C sharp is case sensitive. So we're passing in a copy of this. Or we're passing in this and it's making a copy of it and it's calling it this. So then you could say something like data dot and so you have you can access all this. But it's separate than this instance that we're using here. Because this is global. And this is a private instance. Because it's a copy and it's only within here. So there's by val. To do by ref, so let's go ahead and go to Solution Explorer. Whoops, that's Team Explorer, we don't need that. And we're going to create a new form. So let me know when you get there, just new Windows form. Go ahead and stick with Windows Form 2. Did you get there?
Almost.
We're going to do another version.
And it was Windows Form, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm there.
Alright, and I'm going to kind of fake by ref because I never really completely figured it out with C sharp. With Visual Basic, it's pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory. With C sharp, by ref, I just copy in a copy. I think there is an actual way to do it, though. I just don't remember and I don't feel like Googling it. All right, so you got your second form up? Yes, no?
Mm. Um, no.
Because we're going to make a copy of Form 1. We're going to literally just copy and paste this. So let me know when you get there.
Okay.
I don't know why I have this open twice. So you should just have this. Are you having problems getting the
Or
new Windows
you
form?
mean? Oh, you mean just the blank form? Yeah, I have that.
Okay. So go back to Form 1 in your designer and just literally copy everything. And go to designer 2 and just paste. Got it?
Yep.
Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go into the code behind. So go into view code. And then this is the constructor. This is what you have to have. We'll go over more constructors later. This is basically the parameters that you have to have to create an instance of this class or of this object, aka the form. Let me know when you're there.
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay, so we're going to say data underscore data equals a new instance of our data class. You got that?
Mm. Uh,
That's in form 2.
yeah. Okay.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay, now in order to get form 2, we're going to force it to pass in the data class from form 1. So we're going to say data, data. Okay?
Okay.
Now, so now it's passing in and it's creating a new copy of what we already have. So now we need to tell this data to equal this data. Okay? So we're going to say data, this data, equals the data that was passed in. Okay? And then we're also going to tell it, we're going to say, we're going to use an if statement here. We're going to say if data is not equal to null, meaning it's not nothing. Let me know when you get there. So this statement says if this data that we just set, this is not equal, and that's what the explanation means, not, and then equal to null, meaning it's not empty or not nothing, then we're going to do something here. Okay? Let me know when you're there.
Actually, I'll be right back. Just give me a second.
Okay?
Sorry.
Alright, Matt. Well, I'm going to go ahead and go on, and we'll come back to you. So what we're going to do here is then we're just going to simply say, we're going to set our values in our text boxes. So text equals data first name last name dot text equals underscore data last name age.
Alright.
Alright, so what we're doing here, Matt, is so if this equals or if this is not null, we're going to take the values that's in that we populated from when we created this new instance, and we're going to fill these text boxes with that data, okay?
Okay.
So I am just grabbing these. Couldn't remember what that was named. All right, let me know when you get there. And this is all going to happen when we load this form.
Okay.
Got it all?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's go back to our form 1. And let's go ahead and get rid of this switch statement right here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and create a new instance. Let's go ahead and get rid of this test too. We don't need that. I'm going to create a new instance up here of form 2. So form 2. Actually, that's not going to work. We're going to need to have it stepped in. So come down here and do it here. Make sure I'm doing that right. Oh, what am I doing wrong here? Try. I think I'm, yeah, doing something wrong here. Yeah, see, that's what I thought. Alright, try this again. Yeah, I wonder why it worked that time. Whatever. FRM. Alright, let me know when you get there. And I'll show you what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, let's go ahead and add some comments. So let's say build data. Build form. So we kind of know what we're doing, even though we technically know what we're doing here. So this first block, we're building the data. We're building our data class. We're building the data for our data class, if that's not confusing. And then we're going to load the form, passing in our data. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So let's flip back here to form 2, and let's set a breakpoint here as well. Did you get all that?
Yeah.
So we can step through, like we can actually watch this process. So go ahead and debug. Let me know when you're there.
All right.
Okay, go ahead and fill out your information. Okay, let me know when you're there, and I'll go ahead and click submit with you.
And there.
Okay, go ahead and submit,
Yeah.
and then just step through. Before you go into it, let's make sure that our data class is built properly, which mine is. I hope yours is as well, right? Okay, so we're gonna go in. It should be our next data point. So as you can see right now, our class is empty. This one up here, do you see that? It's empty.
Yeah.
There's nothing in there. Initialize the component, build the data, step once. Let's double check it now to make sure all of our data is in there. You see how it passed it? So now it's all passed in there. We should not hit this. It should be pretty good to go here. We're going to show the dialog. Look at there. There's our form 2. See how it has the same data as our form 1. And now you see it's on the top, and we can't access our form 1 anymore because this is now the form.
Yep.
Okay, so go ahead and close that out. And see, now it's going to dispose of it. So show dialog and dispose. So show dialog and dispose pretty much just prevents a memory leak.
Okay.
Now, another option that we can do here, we'll go ahead and just continue debugging. Another thing that we can do here, instead of showing a dialog and disposing, is we can do this. We can say frm dot show, and then on the next line we can say this dot close. Okay, so what this is going to say, it's going to load form 2 and it's going to close form 1. Okay, let's go ahead and remove our breakpoints because we don't need to see that anymore, or at least not right now. So remove both of those breakpoints, and then I'm going to go ahead and debug. So let me know when you get there.
Alright.
Now, to prove that I'm not doing some kind of magic trick here, type in some random information. Clearly, that's not anything real. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Click submit. And I think, okay, I know the problem. Okay, so go into your Solution Explorer, go into the properties of the project. I think it closes on the last. I know in Visual Basic it has this. Might be a build event in here, something like where it closes. Like you have to keep the parent form open. We try setting the program. So try setting your startup object to the math app program.
Okay.
I don't even know if that class even exists anymore. Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the program class. Alright, so let's try this now. Alright. Apparently the this dot close is not gonna work, so just get rid of that for now. I'll come back to that later. I'm shocked that that doesn't work, but whatever, we'll come back to it later. And I know there's a way to do it, I just can't think of it for some reason. Alright, so did you get that far?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe it needs to go. Let's try reversing the order. I think that that might just. I think that that might close it out before it gets there, but let's give it a shot. Yeah, that's what I thought. Maybe just try disposing. Maybe dispose might work. Last try. Yeah, whatever. Just remove it. Okay, we won't do that. At least not right now. Alright, so anyway, back to this. On to Form 2, now we have the Submit button. Let's go ahead and change this up. So go into the properties, and it's no longer going to be the Submit button, it's going to be the Save button. Okay?
Okay.
And we're going to need to add another button because we want to load data too. Okay? Got both those?
Yeah.
Okay, now we need to set up our click events for both of them. So to do that, just double click. It'll automatically create it for us. And just do that for both of them so we have our save and load.
Mm-hmm.
Let me know when you get there.
Yeah.
Okay, so check our agenda here. So now we're going to talk about stream readers and stream writers, okay? So we need to create a stream reader and we need to create a stream writer. So first thing we want to do is save our data. So we're going to need a stream writer for writing data. So let's go ahead and go to good old Google and look up a stream writer example. And good old .NET Pearls always has a good example. I'm not a big fan of the using, but we'll go ahead and just grab this and I'll just tweak it. Alright. And we're going to need system IO, I bet, for this. Yep. So we're going to need to using system IO. What that did is it just added it right here. See that? Okay, so first thing we need to do is actually create a stream writer. So stream writer. I'm just going to call mine SW. It's going to equal a new stream writer. And just like they did, it has text. So if we want to know what the properties are, though, or what the arguments are, obviously it's IntelliSense is not going to tell us. We don't have to have this, but we're going to because we just want to write it. So it doesn't matter. So just call it test.text. Oh, and I see this needs to... Doing something wrong here. Okay, maybe we won't do that. Or maybe I type stream writer wrong. Alright, so F it. We're just going to use their example because it's not liking my arguments, whatever. I'm going to clean theirs up a little bit, though. It's a little bit more of a one-liner. Alright, writer write. Word. Word 2. This is just writing lines. We want it to write our class. Okay, so we want it to write data. And we're going to change important.text to just simply test. And I think by default it just writes it into the application. Like where the application is, wherever it's at. It'll create a text file. Because this is the path. So we're going to set a breakpoint right there. Let me know when you get there.
it's saying using writer isn't, or saying using writer's no good.
Did you import system IO?
Yeah.
So stream writer equals new stream writer. You don't have that?
Yeah, no, it's the same. It should be.
Make sure you spelled stream writer right. Are you using the using?
Yeah. Well, I put it in manually though. Like I typed in using system IO. Can I not do that?
Up here?
Yeah.
It's case sensitive.
Yeah, no, it's the same as.
I mean, I always just try clicking down on here on it. I mean, you can write it in manually though, like, so I can just type in using. Just don't click on it. Try removing it and then just just hovering over here and clicking on the down pointing arrow. So like try removing it and then I'm gonna get an error and then just clicking on the little light bulb
Oh,
and just
okay.
click on try it that way.
Cool. No, it's still not recognizing writer.
Then you didn't spell stream writer right. Or you don't have a space.
No, it's highlighted and everything.
Alright, share your screen.
All right, and so it's right here.
You got a capital W.
Hmm?
You have capital W for writer, it's case sensitive.
No, no, neither of them are.
No. In your stream writer. It's your keyword stream writer.
Well,
Change
yeah.
cap.
Well, but it's highlighted though. Isn't that how it's supposed to be?
I'm pretty sure. Okay, yeah.
Uh,
No, you're right. You're right. It's capital.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I was wrong. Oh, I see. Take away the semicolon at the end of
There we go.
yeah. There you
Okay.
go. All right. You didn't see that little squiggly line telling you didn't need it?
I guess not.
All right. So there's your stream writer. I assume it's gonna save. Um, I assume it's gonna save in. Inside here, inside the bin file.
Okay.
It's gonna save in here probably, and I'll go back to that once we get there. I'll go back to it. Go ahead and debug. When you get all your information in, let me know. We'll stop right there for just half a second.
Okay. Yeah, it's in.
Okay. So go ahead. You got your breakpoint set right in your on your save click event.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So go ahead and submit. We're in form 2. Let's go ahead and click save. Are you there? At the breakpoint? Matt?
Huh?
Are you at?
Yeah. Uh,
Do you have your breakpoint set on
yeah.
StreamWriter?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So step into it and make sure that it actually writes your data successfully. Hover over your data.
Hold on a second. Okay.
Make sure that all your data is correct in your data class that it wrote. Does that look right?
Hmm.
Does that look correct?
Yeah.
You have information in there? Alright, step out. Alright, so your Form 2 will be there. We don't have a message indicating that it was successfully saved or anything, but we know that it did because we walked through it. So now open up your um, Windows Explorer, go to your Documents, and go to your Visual Studio 2015 and Projects, and then our project is Simple Math App, and then the app, and then look for the bin file. I'll wait for you to get here.
Okay.
And then go inside your bin file. This is where the actual executable will be. Is always inside the debug.
Yeah.
And there's our test file.
Okay.
So so for some reason it didn't actually write the data in our class. I'm assuming that's because it's not serialized, which is fine. So at least we got it to write, something.
Yeah.
So what we could do is we could say, go ahead and stop debugging. Let's tell it to write line by line. Let's tell it to write a line. So we'll tell it to write your first name. Alright, and I'm gonna, for the sake of alright. I'm pretty sure this is gonna know to, yeah, this is gonna work. Now, we're gonna do it with the whole class here in just a second, as soon as I find its example for that, but for now we're just gonna do it like this real quickly. So, you got that?
Yeah.
So this is how you write the lines. So go ahead and debug again. Um, I'm just gonna fill in garbage information this time because I don't feel like typing everything out. I'll go ahead and save and open it up that file again. So there we go. So it actually wrote the data this time. You see that?
Yeah.
Did you get that?
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's go find an example on how to actually write the class. I was hoping that it would have an example how to write an entire class, but apparently it doesn't, so don't want to go into XML because, yeah, I just don't want to do that. Oh, and of course they want to go in an XML serializer. That looks a little bit more complicated than what I want to show you. I don't know why they have an encryptor and decryptor. All right, let's see if we can find something a little easier here. I don't know why everybody wants to use XML serializers. Let me just try a simple serializer. I'm gonna try to do this like via how I would do it Visual Basic. Not gonna promise this is gonna work. Oh, Jesus, there has to be a way without doing this XML wise. Yeah, everybody wants to use XML serializer. I know there's a way to do this via plain text. Ugh, let's see. Okay. Alright, so we gotta go serialize our class. I thought we had to do this. I don't know why I didn't think that we wouldn't. So we have to make this serializable. Let me know when you get there.
Uh,
It's our data class. We have to make it serializable. Did you get that?
not yet.
Man, why does it always take you so long to like type stuff?
Okay, I'm tired and uh, I'm not right.
Isn't it like 7:30?
Yeah.
All right, moving on. You can watch the video tomorrow if you don't get it. It'll be all right.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Serializable. So yeah. So they have this serialization file equals path combine blah 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 blah. So I'm gonna grab this. It's gonna be our directory, like whatever we want it to be. So we don't have a temp directory. So I'm just gonna say throw it in the C drive. And then we want this as test.text. And then I'm gonna go back, review their using portion real quick. Okay. Alright, maybe we don't need this. I'm gonna try it this way. Alright, F it. I think we're just gonna have to save it as an XML. I thought you could do it as plain text, but I don't feel like sitting here screwing with it, figuring it out. So here's the serializer. There's going to be this XML serializer. You have to import the system.xml serialization. I'm gonna grab that. In our case, OStream is actually going to be converted to writer. Whoops. Actually, let me look at it and see what the OStream was. They're using a memory stream. We're using a stream writer. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, can't really use that. It may have to be line by line. I thought you could use a stream writer. Um, Probably do it with a loop, I would assume, for a stream writer. So C sharp. So I'm just gonna here. This might work a little easier. Eventually, you just want to use XML. Just an FYI.
Okay.
You want to use an XML serialization, but for our, so we're using a stream writer, we'll just do it this way. This way works too. You just have to write it line by line, apparently. Our object is going to be the underscore data. And what we're going to say is here, we're just going to say writer. Alright, so not exactly the best way to do this, but it'll work. Obviously, there's better ways. So let's review this code that I just completely stole from somebody. So we're using our stream writer. Everything's wrapped in our stream writer. Our property info is just a system reflection. So it's just basically grabbing the information, the property information from our data class. It wants to get the type. So it wants to know the type of data object, and it wants to know the properties. So down here we get the value of the property. Does this sample make sense, or is it a little bit confusing?
No, that makes sense.
Okay, because it might be, yeah, it could be a little confusing, but you know, it'll make sense more as you go along. Like XML is probably the best way to do this, but we're just writing the plain text. Visual Basic's so much easier to write to plain text, but I couldn't find a good example, so this is what we're gonna work with. So let's test this to see if this works. I'm gonna remove this file. And I'm gonna go ahead and debug again. Just random information. Go ahead and submit, and then try and save it. Hopefully it won't error. So let's see what the first value is. I have no idea. I assume that it's the first name. So we'll just go ahead and let it run through. And open it up. So yeah, it did basically the same thing as if we hand wrote out, you know, each line. You know how we did with the right line?
Yeah.
And this time we just used a loop. So it says for each P in properties, or each property basically is what it's saying in properties for our data class. So for each property in the properties, it wants to get the value of the data property. And then it gets the value, and then we write that line. So hooray, we wrote our, we created a save function. Okay, so now we want to actually load that data. So reverse engineering here. So let's go find a stream reader. Stream reader should be a lot easier. back to our favorite site.
Also, I have to go soon, so
Okay.
it's all right.
So we're going to just read line. Um, yeah, so we'll just read the line. So we'll just grab this. We'll just make this pretty basic. Alright, so here's our line. We need to get it from test.text. Actually, I need to load this into a class. Alright, well, we'll just do it this way. So we know we're going to create a counter as well. Because we know where our data is coming from. This is technically not the ideal way to do this, but we'll go ahead and just do it this way. Oops, I did something wrong here. And normally you would not do this, but for the purposes of you needing to go, we'll just get through this quickly. So we have 0, 1, 3. So we're going to have 3. So we know it's going to grab this. So we know we're going in this order. Actually, we can just keep that. Because once the stream writer's done, we'll go ahead and have it set the values. but we need to equal line. All right. This is knowing what we know, like it's going to come in this exact order. This is not a good practice, just so you know, because this could break logic.
Yeah.
But for the sake of time, did we ever actually save that? Let's go in there and double check. Okay, so we actually have that file in there. Okay, so go ahead and debug. Double check one last thing. Okay, so 0, 1, 2, 3. So I don't think that that's going to work because 3 is age. So we need to reverse these two. Let's go ahead and fix that real quick. So there we go. So 2 and 3 had to be reversed. And that's because this line right here is number 3. And it's an integer.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead and debug. So go ahead and start. And to prove that it's going to change, let's go ahead and type in our regular information here first. Okay, so we got that information. I'll just change that to 36. Go ahead and submit. So we're here, right? Good at this point?
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going to go ahead and load this data. Instead of saving it, we're going to load it from our text file. And it should do what we want. So our counter, oh, I screwed that one up, so I need to move. So go ahead and stop debugging. It's my fault. Counter's in the wrong place. We need to increment after. So there we go. So there's a small correction. All right, let's try this again. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my next form. By the way, this is all horrible practice. You would never ever do this in normal practice, just so you know. This is just purely for example. Anyway, so did you get to the second form?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and load our new values. Or our old values, I should say. So let's see what the line value was. Okay, so we're good. Oh, I didn't loop through. Well, that's alright. At least you got one of them set. Basically, we'd have to create a loop. We'd get the, like this for each loop right here. So what we could do, we could use that. For each line, we could do like a for each line type loop. We won't go into that because we didn't really go into loops, but you got the idea. It read the line and put it in.
Yeah.
We can go over it more later because I know you need to go. And we're already 2 hours into this anyway. And I just wanted to show you how to save some data and how to load data. It didn't go exactly how I planned. I think next time we'll just do XML serialization because everybody seems to support it and there's tons of examples on it. So we'll just go with that next time. But
Uh,
makes sense so far?
yeah. Yeah.
All right, cool. I'll talk to you later, Matt. Any questions?
No.
Okay.